I'm Thinking of Ending Things is bizarre. Based on the book by Ian Reid, the film by Charlie Kaufman follows Lucy as she travels with her boyfriend Jake to his parents' house. Seems simple enough, right? Well, things start to fall apart pretty quickly, and soon the film starts to feel like a nightmare Lucy can't escape from. Her identity constantly shifts throughout the film, Jake's parents begin to rapidly age, and Lucy continues to get phone calls from a caller insisting there is only one question. And as the film progresses, it becomes more uncomfortable and claustrophobic. Soon it becomes apparent that most of the film is fictional. The only real parts are short scenes including an elderly janitor dispersed throughout the film. See, Jake is both the boyfriend and the janitor, and the main body of the film takes place within the fantasies of elderly Jake, imagining what it would be like to bring a girlfriend to dinner with his parents. The name of the film too describes not Lucy's feelings about the relationship as originally implied, but Jake's decision to end his life. And when we understand that the film is about a man's struggle to live, three main questions stand out amongst the chaos. Who is Lucy? What is the question? And what's the deal with time?
Like, that's my purpose in all this, in life, to approve of Jake.
The ways in which Jake imagines Lucy changes throughout the film as he attempts to identify what aspects of a woman he wants. This involves her profession, her interests, and the clothes she wears. The work she shares with him and his family, such as poetry, paintings, thoughts on films, come directly from media Jake consumed during his lifetime. This can be seen in one scene where Lucy's name again changes, but this time to Yvonne, reflecting a character in a movie that elderly Jake watches. It suggests that Jake is attempting to build a woman who's similar to him, someone who will appreciate his life. However, what his life actually represents continues to change. Jake consistently finds Lucy's opinions intimidating, and though he claims to appreciate her intelligence, he becomes frustrated when she disagrees with him. Her comments on "Baby It's Cold Outside" leave him completely frozen.
The song was written in 1936. It's not about roofies.
He even dismisses Lucy's wishes to go home. The fact that all of Lucy's work, such as her poem called Bone Dog, or her paintings actually by Ralph Albert Blakecock, are really works consumed by Jake, suggests he wants complete control of her. So any attempts by Lucy to even exert the smallest agency link directly back to Jake. She is completely powerless in his fantasy. Lucy represents this trope of a manic pixie dream girl that has been used by directors to teach broodingly soulful men how to embrace life. Jake is waiting for this mysterious woman to appear in his life and change him for better. And it is for this reason that he is incapable of changing, because he expects someone to do it for him. So when he's at the end of his life, hallucinating the existence of Lucy, he is trying to imagine how this woman would have changed his life.
There's only one question to resolve. I'm scared. I feel a little crazy. I'm not lucid.
A big theme throughout this film is the question that must be answered. We come to find that this question is whether it's worth to continue living, and much of the film is structured around this central theme. As Jake begins to grapple with the decision on whether to end his life, he begins to weigh up his memories. Often these memories begin as positive, however, a feeling of dread and loneliness begins to enter these scenes. One of which being the story of how Jake and Lucy met.
Jake raised his glass and went, "Oh yeah, well, we're helpfully fortified," and I laughed, which broke the ice.
Lucy laughs as she tells the story. However, as the story finishes, the camera focuses solely on Lucy, only to reveal seconds later that she is alone at the dinner table. Ultimately, memories like this end with a feeling of unease and loneliness. Other memories focus on the good deeds that Jake believes he has done during his life. When his parents rapidly age during their visit, he feeds his elderly mother and helps his father to the bathroom. But Jake feels as though he has not been recognized for these good qualities. He feels extremely alone in his actions, and he has no one to show what a good person he is. But Kaufman asks us whether these actions matter at all. There is evidence throughout the film to suggest that our actions are determined before we make them. In one instance, the camera pans to the sofa before the characters enter the shot to sit on it. And in another, the table is set before anyone actually has a chance to set it. In the car, Lucy and Jake discuss the purpose of insects who are genetically coded to self-destruct. This presents an interesting argument as to whether Jake's suicide was inevitable. Regardless of how he weighs up his life into good and bad, the film suggests that this won't change his final decision.
People like to think of themselves as points moving through time, but I think it's probably the opposite.
Time is perhaps the most important topic in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. More specifically, Kaufman explores the significance of age during the film. In an early scene, Lucy tells Jake that getting old ain't for sissies, and this is central to Jake's philosophy on aging. Seemingly, Jake is terrified of getting old because he believes that youth is essential to his success. We see this fascination with youth when elderly Jake watches kids perform their high school production of Oklahoma, and when he imagines his parents as much younger during their visit, this is the ideal way Jake remembers them. Much later in the film, Jake shares his thoughts on why youth is important when he tells Lucy that youth is admirable and that all groundbreaking work in science and art was done by young people. As a result, Jake believes that the older he gets, the less likely he is to be recognized for all of his struggles. Aging becomes this idea of rot or decay, and this is demonstrated when Lucy and Jake look around their parents' farm. When Lucy asks about the death of the lambs, Jake becomes very annoyed and is quick to dismiss the topic of mortality. Furthermore, his story about the pigs rotting away from the inside presents his disgust towards the subject. This is also seen in the food at the dinner and the dessert scenes. Jake's mum remarks that all the food came from the farm, and the enormous ham brings up memories of the pigs. What's more, the Yule log served for dessert is well past season. The rapid aging of his parents also highlights some of the disgust he feels towards getting old. The scene in which he feeds his elderly mother is especially nauseating, as well as when his father hands Lucy a nightgown covered in bile. Jake's father also battles with dementia in his old age, and this is particularly terrifying to Jake, as his memories of his parents are what he values most before he takes his life. All these fears come to a head during their trip home, when Jake becomes extremely upset talking about aging.
What is the lie of it all?
I don't know. That it's going to get better, that it's never too late, that God has a plan for you, that age is just a number, that it's always darkest before the dawn.
He talks about the lie of it all, and this shows the feelings that elderly Jake has when considering ending things. He's waited so long for things to get better, but they never do, and now in his old age he feels he is incapable of changing. These three themes all work to show the thoughts of a man grappling with the final question. And in the penultimate scene of the film, Kaufman diverges from the book to give Jake everything he believed he was owed. In this ridiculous amalgamation of Jake's fancies, he accepts a Nobel Prize, performs Oklahoma, and all whilst Lucy and the crowd cheer him on. Jake even comes to terms with aging, as himself and the crowd have been poorly made to look much older. All this culminates to imply that Jake has made peace with death, and the final scene depicts Jake's car covered in snow, suggesting his decision to end his life.